Coming up now on Animal Outtakes,
this doesn't look too good.
I get close to one of the largest rattlesnake species in the U.S.
What makes this species really unique though is their venom, and that's what people get really fascinated about. In particular, the timber rattlesnakes actually have 4 different genomes of venom.
We learn about this impressive timber rattlesnake. Plus, is it a spider or a crab? We hear all about the importance of raising these young spider crabs while watching them eat their breakfast. And we head to Key Largo for a new dive with Doc. This time it's to the Christmas Tree Cave, where it's worms instead of pine trees that make the iconic shape. This and much more straight ahead on Animal Outtakes. We start this week with a Venomous Pit Viper. The timber rattlesnake is found in eastern North America. And we got lucky because there's one right here at Sarasota Jungle Gardens. Let us introduce you to Buzz.
This doesn't look too good.
So we actually probably leave this right here. Where would we say, right about here, you said?
Let's do snake social distancing.
So we'll do 6 feet.
The hissing.
There you go, buddy.
John, you all know here that I'm not crazy about snakes.
We know that, and that's why I brought you Mr. Buzz here.
Yes, and Mr. Buzz is going to stay there. We're going to observe snake social distancing.
That we are. Well, this one here, this is Mr. Buzz, and Buzz, this one here is a timber rattlesnake. They are found here in Florida, but they're usually found more in North Florida. These guys are actually one of the largest rattlesnakes we have here in the state, and one of the largest rattlesnakes we actually have here in the U.S. You don't see them that often. You see them more up north, like in Pennsylvania and stuff like that. What makes this species really unique though is their venom, and that's what people get really fascinated about. So in particular, the timber rattlesnakes actually have 4 different genomes of venom. They have type A, type B, type C, and type D. This particular one here, it's very unique because he comes from Volusia County up in the Jacksonville area. So what also makes these guys unique is that their venom is actually a neurotoxin, meaning that it affects your neurological system, where most Viperideas are actually a hemotoxin, meaning it affects your tissues and cells. The ones from this county, though, are evolving to have both a hemotoxin and a neurotoxin, which is really kind of cool and kind of crazy.
So if this guy gets you, what are we going to exhibit?
Well, that's an interesting question you asked there. So when it comes to venom, venom is kind of measured on a scale called the LD50 scale, which is the lethal dose at 50% of the population. So that one's kind of iffy because that research is done on mice, and we are definitely not mice. So it varies person to person. So some of the variables when it comes to venomous snake are your age, your size, and where you get bit. For example, if you get bit in the buttocks, it's a fatty area, you're gonna be better off as if you got bit in the neck or got bit in the torso, closer to your heart.
Now, if a human is compromised, perhaps has a bad liver, bad kidneys, a bad organ,
Correct.
Period,
Yeah.
and they get bit by this, what is the result?
As my grandma would say, it's no bueno. It's not going to be good. These guys are actually one of our more dangerous snakes here in North America, and it only is because of their size. Their venom is pretty toxic, but their size. So the rule of thumb is the bigger the snake, the higher the venom yield. And just like anything else, the more you get in your system, the worse off you're going to be. When we go into the defense mechanism of a snake, I don't know if you noticed, most people would expect the snake to just be rattling away, coiled up, hissing and stuff like that, but that's not how they are. This snake in particular was from, zoo bred, zoo raised. So this snake here is used to people. You know, number 2, that their cryptic coloration is their first line of defense. Not only is it to help them hunt, it's to keep them away from people. And people forget that snakes don't want to bite you, they don't want to kill you. That's putting them at risk. They want to stay a distance from you. So that's why the rattle comes into play.
Do they really know the difference?
Well, yeah, so they can tell the difference between, friend and foe, basically. In snakes in particular, like this particular species here, they have heat pips so they can pick up heat, and they also have that Jacobson organ. And Jacobson organ is the tongue. So the tongue flicks out, it picks up little molecules to the left or to the right and straight ahead. And that's how they kind of differentiate between friend and foe. Are you food? Are you a threat? And that's why. So if you were a dog and you were to come up in a snake, the first thing the snake would not do is not going to bite. The first thing it's going to do is going to retract his body. It's going to coil up, make his body smaller, and then it's going to rattle. And that's a defense mechanism, let you know, hey, I'm here, be aware and be aware of my presence. And that's what they do, because if a snake does bite you, it's taxing on the snake, it's stressful on the snake as well, and venom takes energy to produce. Snakes don't want to waste venom. It takes energy to produce venom.
He's not doing a lot of movement. Is it because of the weather, or is it because he knows don't come near the host?
It's a little bit of both. Like I said, so Buzz here has been with us since he was born, and these guys that give live birth, which is kind of a fun fact. People think all snakes lay eggs. They do not. These are one of the species of snakes that give live birth. So it's a little cooler, so they are ectothermic, meaning that their temperature is regulated by external factors. The old term is cold-blooded, which is not accurate. So that's part of factor. So part of factor is the snake, we've worked a lot, hundreds of hours have been put into this snake for education purposes. And then also, like you're saying, it's kind of cool, so his energy levels are just not going to be there. The best way to explain it is like you trying to go play soccer in 105 degrees, you're not going to want to do it. You're going to kind of conserve as much energy as you can. So if you come in a snake, the number one thing I tell people is stop. Really, once you see the snake, don't run backwards, don't run forward, stop, be aware the snake's there, and then work your way backwards. So we'll do a demo here. So if I'm walking up in a park and I'm coming up to the snake, let's see if I can get him to react a little bit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hear, theoretically, I'm going to hear the tail rattle. I'm going to stop what I'm doing, because if you run backwards, there might be another one there, and often people retreat and they don't realize that there's maybe other snakes there. So very calmly, just move back and observe the animal. You are in nature. If you're seeing one of these guys in nature, enjoy it. Take photos of it, appreciate these animals, because they really are an amazing species.
Now you talk about a live birth. How many of these little critters can they have?
So in the litter can vary between 8 to 20. There are variables. The variables are, of course, age of the female. Really young females and really old females don't produce as well. Middle age, around 3 to 4, is really when you start producing good. And they can produce yearly. Another thing with these guys, too, is they go into something called brumation, which is a term that people use in reptiles, which is kind of the reptile form of hibernation. So up north, when it's snowing, these guys would go into caves and dens, and just like a bear, they'll sleep through the winter and they'll emerge during spring, which is kind of a cool little thing, too.
And that's why we see so many of them in the spring and summer.
Correct, yeah, spring and summer. Here in Florida, a lot of our snakes generally don't go through brumation because our temperatures don't get that low. But a lot of times, like this time of year, you'll see them early in the mornings or late in the evenings on the side of the road basking and trying to get a last bit of that heat absorbed up.
And that begs the question too, because a lot of us are out in the beautiful Florida weather and the areas that we so much love, and if we come across and possibly get bit, what do we do? Okay, so that's a very, very good question. So the number one thing you're going to do is a thing that you probably will not be able to do, and that is stay calm. The reason why I say that, like, I'm a professional, I've been doing this since I was 18 professionally. I would probably have a hard time staying calm myself, and I know what to expect. The biggest thing to do is realistically is identify the snake, number one. The reason why is that when you go to the hospital, they're gonna wanna know how you got bit. Number two, obviously call 911, let them know what you got bit by, give them an approximate size, and then follow the directions. The reason why you wanna stay calm is that if your heart rate's going up, then venom is gonna work through your body faster. There is a unit though in Miami called Venom 1 that does have all the anti-venom, but every hospital here in Florida has anti-venom for our native species. So if you do get bit, just go straight to the hospital, call 911. They may say, you know what, we're gonna send paramedics to you first. But identifying is very important, because if you don't properly identify the snake, they can't possibly properly administer the right anti-venom. And that's why it's so important. Well, our boy here is taking a little move.
Yeah, he's got a little warmed up in the sun, and now if you look too, you can see how very calm this animal is, and that's what I want to point out, is that people think these guys are just evil monsters. They're not. They serve a purpose in our ecosystem, and they're changing our day every day, and you can see how he is. He can be going towards you and say, Marsha, you look delicious, but he's not. He's going towards that trash can, and he's going to go work his way around, and you can see his tongue flicking, and that's that Jacobson organ picking up the scents and saying, Marsha smells good, John, you need to take a bath. That's pretty much what he's doing right now.
Well, he is heading the right direction.
As if one large potentially deadly rattlesnake wasn't enough, next we get a look at a pygmy rattlesnake. Now the one you're about to meet is boarding at Jungle Gardens as evidence for a pending court case. And we learn why this snake should never obviously be a pet. But there is a life-saving benefit this snake offers.
Well, John, you're digging again.
I am digging again for a much
And what do we have?
smaller snake.
Oh my.
Oh, sorry, buddy. You okay?
Yep.
There you go. All right, guys, so this is a pygmy rattlesnake. So I don't know if you noticed the difference in this snake's behavior as opposed to the one we saw earlier. This one here is a confiscated snake. And what I mean by that is that somebody actually had this one illegally in their collection. It was a gentleman who had it in a small container of his children. Somebody reported and called Fish and Wildlife, and then Fish and Wildlife brought them to us. So we actually do boarding here for certain species, in particular venomous snakes and stuff like that, if there's a court case going on, because this is actual evidence showing people that, you know, this is a snake. So we are housing this one temporarily, and you can see the difference. Like earlier we did the timber a second ago, and you saw he was very relaxed, and then if you watch, you can see the little pygmy's rattle.
And that little tail is flickering
little tail
back.
is flicking, aggravated as could be.
Yeah.
And he's very jerky too right now, which kind of is indicating his frustration. He's not happy right now. So
I have to ask the question. So many of us love dogs and cats and other animals. Why would you have a pygmy rattler, especially around children?
Well, you wouldn't, and you shouldn't, and that's why FWC, which is Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission, intervened and pulled the animal away. You know, here at the zoo, we are a zoological institution, so for us, these animals like this get an opportunity to educate the public. This is something that you should not see, or if you are lucky, you may see out in the wild. And another thing too is, like, I want to definitely touch about, you know, venom. You know, we touched earlier on, but venom is an amazing, amazing enzyme, and in particular, this snake right here is saving lives every day.
How?
How? So venom is actually being turned into medicine. So that's kind of a crazy thing. So there are medications out there that are anticoagulants. There's medications out there that are for heart medication. In particular, this one is a medication for valves. So if you have blood clots in your valves, their venom is a hemotoxin. So it affects our blood cells. So this little guy's venom, if turned into medicine, and which they currently are using in hospitals, can actually break up the clots in your arteries and save your life. And it's being used every day here in the state, in the US too. This snake accounts for the most snake bites of any snake in the state of Florida.
And I would say that would be both for human and for the animals.
Absolutely.
Because if you notice, he is so camouflaged amongst this grass and the leaves and that, you can't see him.
Correct. And this is about an average size pygmy rattlesnake. The largest they're going to get is only about 24 to 30 inches. So if you're thinking about that, it's not a big animal. And like, he's rattling his tail right now, and we're having a conversation. And just the traffic noise and the noise in the wind is.
And there he goes.
Yeah, it's muffling out his rattle.
Now, these are native to Florida?
Correct. They are a native species here in the state of Florida. If you do get bit by one of these, number one thing, as always, is to stay calm. So as you guys are seeing right here, you guys are seeing me kind of get really close and low to the snake. And that's because I want to be able to observe him, and I want to be able to react when the snake reacts. But if you overlook my Marsha as well, we also have another keeper, Kaylee, and she's our lead keeper. So Kaylee is
She's my girl.
She is the linebackers and the linemen for Marsha here. She is her line of defense. So if this snake was to get out of my reach, then she'll get there. But also, guys, this is a wild-caught snake. This is a snake that was confiscated here in Florida less than a year ago, and this snake is not acting aggressive towards me whatsoever. It goes back to respecting wildlife and respecting the animals and giving them their space. If I was in a game trail, I was walking and hiking, I would not approach him this close. I wouldn't. I know the snake. I've worked with the snake for a year, and the snake has kind of familiarized with me. But it's also a healthy respect for the animal, and that's really important. Everybody needs to have that and understand that every living creature has a role in our ecosystem, including this little guy right here.
It's important to know all proper safety precautions were in place for this shoot. Should you ever come upon one of these snakes in the wild, do not approach the snake. Coming up next, it's baby time for the spider crabs at Mote Marine. And Christmas Tree Cave, Doc takes us to a dive at the French Reef.
These last few months have been challenging for everyone, especially me. I've walked many, many miles. I learned new tricks. I lost my afternoon nap time. I've stayed up many nights watching movie after movie after movie. I'm suffering from cabin fever. I'm in need of a renewed spirit.
Dante's Den is the perfect boarding solution for your dog, whether it's an overnight, short, or extended stay. Dante's offers the convenience, amenities, and overall luxury your pet is seeking. Spacious, air-conditioned dens have private patios, overlooking scenic pool and lakeside views, a sparkling pool with fountains to play in, surrounded by chaste loungers and a staff that will cater to their every wish. To make a boarding reservation for your pup, call us at 941-219-3730.
A group of baby spider crabs at Mote Marine Aquarium are growing up. These crustaceans play an important role in our environment, and they have a creative way to protect themselves from predators. Let's take a look.
Hello, my name is Amanda Hodo, and I'm an Aquarium Biologist 3 at Mote Marine Laboratory and Aquarium, where I've worked for about 6 years now. And today I'm going to show you our baby spider crabs. So down here we have some short-clawed spider crab juveniles. They were born in June, on June 12th. So they are roughly 5 months old now. So they're getting pretty big. So when they first hatched, they were roughly under 500 microns. And now they're about the size of nickels. So they have grown so fast in such a short amount of time. And I have actually kept a lot of their molts because they are crabs. So the way that they grow is that they shed their exoskeleton as a molt. So I actually saved some of those molts. So if you look up here, you can see some from when they were teeny tiny and probably just about a couple of weeks old, all the way up to our most recent molt, where they are getting pretty big. With them, I was able to spot them in the water column when they were released, and then I collected them and brought them back to the lab. And of course, when something is this small, they require really, really small food. So we actually raise a lot of our live food in-house. So we raise rotifers, we raise copepods, as well as larval brine shrimp. So today I'm gonna feed them Pacifica krill, which is a smaller species of krill, and this will satisfy the meaty foods that they eat. And then I also have already fed them little pieces of wakame algae. So you'll probably see that some of them have a big square, a big green square stuck to their foreheads, and that's because I fed them algae earlier and they ate what they wanted and then they're saving it for later. One of the reasons why we raise fish and invertebrates in the aquarium is so that we lessen the pressures that we put on wild populations. So for conservation reasons, it's really important that we raise things in-house when we can. And then the goal is to, when successful, to be able to share those offspring with other zoos and aquariums. So that as a whole, as the aquarium industry, we can lessen our impact on wild populations. Spider crabs, they're a crustacean, and they have some very, very small species, all the way up to one of the largest species, which is the Japanese spider crab. And spider crabs, in this particular situation, they are decorators. So whatever they have around them, whatever they're eating, they're going to use to decorate their bodies and help camouflage themselves. So they have claws and pinchers and stuff to defend themselves, but then they also use camouflage as a strategy as well. Spider crabs hang out in the substrate. Out in the bay, they'd be out in the sand or on the rocks, and they are detritivores, so they'll eat leftover bits of food, anything that's kind of like found in the sand that's rotting or breaking down, they would be cleaning that up as well. So they're useful in the sense that they are keeping the water and the substrate clean. You can see that they're divided, and that's because they're cannibalistic, especially when they're young. So when not only is it hard to take care of them because they are really small and they require like small food, which is how I created this floating tackle box here. And so each one of them has their own little dorm room, as I say, and I can feed them and take care of them in one central area, but not worry about them. This is the first time that we've raised spider crabs at the aquarium. The Aquarium Conservation Lab is relatively new. It was created in 2018, and that's not to say that we weren't raising fish and invertebrates at Mote before then, but this is kind of the first organized multi-species space that we've had where we have built exhibits and systems specifically for raising larval fish and then had it on display to the general public. So it's really, really exciting, and I was really, really excited to raise these guys because I had a male and a female in an exhibit together, and I was hoping that they might have some offspring, and I was right. So it was very exciting, and I just love them. They're wonderful to care for.
We'll be right back. And now we head to Key Largo, Florida, where Doc takes us underwater to Christmas Tree Cave off the French Reef. The name comes from a marine worm that looks a lot like a colorful Christmas tree. And this dive also offers popular swim-throughs and a chance for beginners to practice buoyancy control. Let's take a look.
Hey guys, welcome back to Diving with Doc. Today we're going to be going down to Key Largo. We've got several dives we're going to do. First up is going to be French Reef with Christmas Tree Caves. We want to take a look at this nice swim through they have down here in French Reef, and then also on our way out there's the donut hole swim through, and then there is the hourglass swim through. They're a little bit smaller, but we're going to do those too. Now remember, anytime we're doing a swim through, keep your neutral buoyancy very tight. All right, we don't want to kick up the sediment or the sand behind us so the person behind us can't enjoy the dive also. So remember to pay attention, keep your neutral buoyancy very good, and enjoy the dive. So we decided to go down to the Keys. There's a lot of great dives going on, but this one intrigued us the most just because of the name Christmas Tree Reef. They call it the Christmas Tree Reef because of the Christmas tree worms. We usually dive that area about 45 minutes. It's probably only going to take you about 3 minutes to go through nice and slow through the swim through. Take your time, enjoy it. Look around, have a little flashlight, look through the nooks and the crannies. You'll see a couple little eels here and there. Possibly, if it's not too bad, you'll see a lobster, maybe a little bitty crab, and you see a lot of little fish. But take your time when you guys go through the swim throughs. You don't want to be going through too fast. The depth, we were about 18 to 22 feet. So it wasn't that deep. It's a nice, easy beginner's dive. So if you're an instructor and you want to bring students somewhere, take them to French Reef. They'll enjoy it. There's a lot of sand traps around and trails. And then of course you have the 3 swim throughs and you'll have a good time. So we want to make sure we are nice and neutrally buoyant so we can enjoy the dive, and you can move from side to side, and then you're going to stay up and down. It's a great little swim through. Lots of little coral all around. Again, bring your flashlight, take a look, go nice and slow. Take a look around, look for some lobsters, look for some eels. We take our time. There's no one there, you know, making sure you go really fast through, so just relax and enjoy your dive. And then once you come out of the Christmas tree cave, again, it opens up again into a nice big sandy area that you can pick which side you want to go to. It's almost like a trail set up, similar to how the Grand Caymans is. So we just picked the trail, we swam off, and then you'll see we'll pick up the hourglass swim through next, then we come back around and we did the donut hole swim through. So that was pretty cool. We always have a drag bag with us, and a drag bag is a trash bag. It's mesh, so it doesn't fight us when we're swimming. And all the time, we're always looking for something that we can pick up to bring back with us. Because the rule is what you take in, you're supposed to bring out, and a lot of people don't do that. They lose things. We're always finding equipment, and we're always finding trash. We want to be able to preserve this environment for my grandkids to be able to scuba dive also, and their kids, and their kids' kids. We all want to enjoy the ocean and the sea.
The French Reef is a sanctuary preservation area. It encompasses discrete, biologically important areas that help sustain critical marine species and habitats. We'll be right back.
I think something happened to my family. I'm scared and lonely. What's going to happen to me now?
Don't worry, Sonny. Our loving staff at Dante's Den will take care of all your pet needs for the rest of your life. A warm bed, toys, great food, walking, and swimming is all at your paw tips. And if you get sick, there is even a hospital and medical staff to help you get well. Dante's Den, continuing the love.
We hope you had fun and learned a thing or two along the way. We'll be back here again next week with some more animals and some wild adventures. Until then, thanks for watching.
We may lose Michelle, our videographer. She's moving back.
We'll bring her back later.